we believe pretty strongly that most things that people are going to be doing in their traditional financial lives are going to be replicated better and faster on-chain, and then Phantom's going to be the best place to access all that.
Today's guest is Brandon Millman, CEO and co-founder of Phantom. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks. Appreciate the invite, Laura. And been a long time listener of the podcast and show. So yeah, pretty awesome to be on.
Yeah, it's great to have you. This week, the crypto community was super excited when on Tuesday, Phantom announced that it was launching perpetual swaps using Hyperliquid. Tell us about this product.
Well, yeah, like you said, we put out a launch announcement earlier this week and actually started rolling out the feature to users, targeting sort of like 100% rollout before the end of this week. And yeah, the reception's been overwhelmingly positive. The crypto community at large is sort of really excited about it. And I think it was sort of a pretty obvious thing for us to do, frankly, in the sense that, our mission is basically to try to take crypto and accelerate the adoption of it by focusing in specifically on sort of the safety and usability aspects, and just making sure that as the space gets more complicated and the ecosystem gets more robust, that users are able to really safely and easily discover and interact with everything that's happening. We just basically recognize a huge opportunity to sort of apply that thinking to Perps. I think a lot of listeners probably have context on what perps are, but there's sort of they're a derivative type of product that allows users to essentially bet on the price of an asset without necessarily buying the underlying asset, and most importantly, allows you to sort of, as opposed to just buying an asset, it allows you to bet on the price going up or down, and with additional leverage. And so perps are super exciting because it's actually one of the most crypto native, I'd say, innovations, and they dominate trading volume, they dominate usage. Users love them, but traditionally they've been a bit too hard for sort of like the normal user and trader to access, especially on mobile. Basically, we really took an opportunity to see if we can sort of apply our specific strengths and provide something new for the market that we thought was missing. But that's sort of the TLDR.
Yeah, I mean, so perps have been one of the most popular products in crypto for quite a while. Famously started at BitMEX. I think Arthur Hayes was one of the people who came up with the idea. But Phantom also has been around for a while, and during that time, perps were also available. So why did you decide to launch perps right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I'd say, perps have definitely been around for a while in sort of different forms. So you've always had sort of like initial centralized venues like BitMEX, but there's never really been like a true like centralized exchange scale, decentralized opportunity or like decentralized option for users. And that has really come on the scene this year with Hyperliquid. There were a number of different attempts in the past, obviously DYDX, GMX, and some folks like that. But I think the operative word for me is sort of centralized exchange scale. None of them had ever really been able to hit the same sort of scale in terms of liquidity, which ultimately trickles down to price execution and ends up in a better user experience for users. And so I think Hyperliquid was definitely changing the game. It was definitely a big part of it. But I think in general, there's just been a general rise of perps sort of entering the lexicon of the general traditional financial world. And you see folks like Coinbase and Robinhood. They all have announced that they're going to be rolling out perps features soon. And so, we just felt like, with the rise of Hyperliquid and the rise of the general appetite for this type of thing, we really felt like it was the right time to do it.
And so the perps on Phantom will have 40x leverage. You're going to start with 100 markets. How did you decide on the 40x? And then, how will you decide which new markets to list?
Yeah. So we're basically treating Hyperliquid as an open permissionless system that we're helping users get access to. And so sort of the access to the markets and the amount of leverage available is sort of a function of just available on Hyperliquid itself. So it's not necessarily that we chose markets or specific leverage, more that we just chose to give access people to get access to people of what's available on Hyperliquid. And so, yeah, I believe not all markets have up to 40x, but I believe some of the more robust ones do. For example, Bitcoin. But yeah, more and more market. I think one of the huge, I think, advantages of building on top of an open permissionless ecosystem is that it's exactly that. It's open and permissionless, and that you know there's going to be, this is the sort of the foundation for anyone to be able to launch their own perps markets. That is something that is coming down the pipeline with HIP3, which is one of the most recent Hyperliquid improvement protocols. And so, yeah, I think just building on top of something that's open and permissionless allows us to, give access to users, give the biggest and widest range of access to users.
Okay, so just to make sure I understood, the wallet basically is serving almost like a front end to just what's already available on Hyperliquid. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay, I see. So users deposit Sol, and then that gets converted to USDC. And Phantom, I believe, makes money from these perps by charging fees on those conversions. Is that correct?
So the way that it works is that from a user perspective, they'll be depositing into sort of like a perps area of the app, not necessarily thinking about it as a bridge or anything like that. Right now, you can only deposit Sol, but it's more of a technical limitation. In the future, we'll be able to deposit any range of assets, including raw USDC. And we actually don't make any fees on the like that kind of bridge conversion, but we do make fees on like opening and closing positions, which is sort of the typical like monetization method for any normal perps exchange.
Okay. And then, so in the initial launch announcement, it said that you'll launch first in the EU. But then just now in the show, you said that it will launch to all users. So like, will this product be available in the US within this week as well?
Yeah. Well, I think what I specifically said is roll out to 100%. I guess what I meant was 100% of every user that is, able to access it. It's not going to be available in the US. Basically, each country and each jurisdiction has a different set of rules and regulations. We do everything in our power to comply with regulations, and we're rolling out perps as fast as we can, and we hope to offer them in as many jurisdictions and to as many folks as possible. But yeah, we do everything we can to comply with local rules and regulations. So when I meant all users, I meant everyone who is actually able to access them.
Oh, okay. And so it sounds like you were saying they will never be available in the US, or you just mean like right now, given regulations, it doesn't look like that will happen at this point. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I mean, I would never say never. I mean, I'm not writing the rules and regulations, obviously from the U.S. perspective, but they are, it is, as everyone knows, an ongoing and dynamic sort of regulatory environment, and so we're always keeping our eyes on what's going on there. But I mean, the bright news is that the posture from the U.S. perspective has really changed lately as it relates to crypto broadly, and so. Yeah, I mean, excited to work with regulators to help open up access as much as possible.
So a lot was made about how Phantom has long been a Solana-first wallet. Of course, you support other chains like Bitcoin, Base, Sui, and others. But obviously, as you mentioned, for this perps product, you chose Hyperliquid. And Solana itself does have other perps DEXes. Drift, Jupiter, those could have also been options. So why did you decide to go with Hyperliquid?
Yeah, well, I guess just to emphasize on something you said. Phantom is a Solana-first wallet and a Solana-first product, and that hasn't changed because we've added Hyperliquid's Perps integration. So I think that's the first thing I'd say there. But yeah, second thing is, kind of going back to what I said originally about why we're doing this in the first place. And the whole purpose of the company is to accelerate the adoption of crypto by making it safe and easy to use. And it really is thinking about what's best for the end user and what's going to provide the best experience for them. And so when we're evaluating different types of perps venues and backends to use for this type of product, I mean, there's a pretty clear decision from that lens. In order to provide the best user experience from a trading perspective, you need the best liquidity that equals the best prices for users and ultimately the best user experience. And yeah, if you just look at the stats, it's not even really comparable what Hyperliquid's been able to do in terms of really kind of aggregating liquidity in this kind of decentralized way. And so that's kind of the long and short of it, of why we chose to do this Hyperliquid integration. And on top of that, on top of just raw liquidity, Hyperliquid has done a very great job actually forming a whole community around the product and around the tech. And you have dozens of teams who are all working to improve Hyperliquid, add new features, and keep the innovation going, which is something that's hard to replicate when it's just like a single team working on something. So those are a couple of different reasons.
I saw Austin Maraza at Dragonfly tweeted, quote, "Phantom understands that wallets as we know them are dying. The monopoly on user access is over. New users won't download Phantom to connect to external apps because of what he calls the threat to embedded wallets." So do you agree with his assessment? And if so, how do you plan to fight these apps that already have embedded wallets?
Yeah, there's a lot that's being said there. I'd say in general, there's sort of a broader trend that's fueling a lot of different things going on in crypto, which is that crypto is moving more and more mobile first. That was not the case, just a couple of years ago, and has actually really been enabled by the rise of like infrastructure like Solana and blockchains that actually offer, fees and cost and speed that actually make apps enjoyable to use in a mobile context. And because things are moving more and more mobile, everyone knows how the world of mobile apps have developed, and that people have come to prefer native experiences versus mobile web or things like that. And so I think that's the primary trend that's driving a lot of transformation that we're seeing around how people use crypto in general. I think embedded wallets have proven to be a very great tool for people to build native mobile apps. And because of the mobile app trend, you see people apps moving more and more towards that kind of model to get started. So that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is that folks are generally just want a more and more native experience. And so even within Phantom, we chose not to make like a general window into any perps DEX that you want, but to actually really take like an opinionated take on how like the UX of like a mobile first UX should look for perps. So yeah, there's a couple of trends. I'm not sure if I answered your question directly, but those are a couple things I'd comment on.
Yeah, well, I want to expand on it a little bit because, if we sort of zoom out and we look at the activity on, it's really, activity from Base. There's Robinhood Chain. We're seeing that both of these companies are going to offer perps, as we mentioned. There's chatter that Stripe is going to launch its own chain. X supposedly is on this path to trying to be more of a financial app. And so, just if we maybe focus a little bit more on the Coinbase Robinhood area, then it sort of feels like wallets and exchanges are, potential ways that people could go on chain, like one of the main conduits. And so I wondered if you had a thesis about like how the competition between those two types of crypto venues will play out.
Mhm, mhm. Well, yeah, I definitely have a thesis there. I'd say one interesting comment on what you had just mentioned is that, the competition for chains and ecosystems is something that's not really dying down. We're still very much in an emerging multi-chain world. Um, and that's actually a really big, you know, um, pro for why wallets as them today are going to continue to exist, is because the ecosystem is going to continue to get more and more fragmented, and people are coming to crypto often to use one single app that they've heard about, but then when it comes time to start to explore a broader ecosystem or a broader world, the sort of embedded wallet, one app wallet per app kind of like model breaks down, because you're not really able to pick up and then go to all these different places that are going to emerging, and it's not really slowing down, right? As you mentioned. So that's one, I guess, point related to your previous question. The second thing you were mentioning around the role of centralized exchanges and wallets in these emerging ecosystems, I think what you'll see is that, and obviously this is my thesis, but that wallets are going to become more and more the entry point to crypto as we know it, because crypto itself has undergone this transformation in the last couple of years, right? Most people originally thought of crypto as like, hey, I just need to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I get access to that by going to an exchange or a broker. Over the last years, the definition of what people want access to has massively expanded, to whatever's being built on open permissionless networks. And I think you'll see people going wallet first when reaching for these things a lot more, and that's going to be a rising trend. And you'll see sort of like the on-ramp and centralized exchange portion of that pipeline getting more and more commoditized as technology gets better. And so, yeah, as long as open permissionless ecosystems win, I'd say wallets are probably going to be the place where users are going to flock, and centralized exchanges will become more and more of a commoditized on-ramp.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see that maybe Coinbase has the same thought, because they are sort of pivoting more toward Base. And as we all know, that this Coinbase wallet announcement is happening next week. That's actually a perfect segue to my next question, which is, there's also this element that like social will play a role. And, we see like glimmers of it. It's not really clear how this will happen, but obviously Phantom itself had added a social element in May. As I just mentioned, Coinbase is hinting that this next announcement about Coinbase Wallet will have a social element as well. So what does that vision look like to you? Like, how do you see social playing a role in future wallets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting topic. I think one important point to make is that crypto itself is a very social movement and social phenomenon. I mean, it's a decentralized group of human beings who are all kind of coordinating across the globe to, all move in the same direction. I'm pretty sure vast majority of people that you ask or know in crypto, if you ask them, how did you get into crypto? It'll literally be like, oh, my friend told me about it, or my friend X told me about it, Y, etc. They actually they may have actually sent you your first crypto as well, or like helped you get onboarded. So it's a very inherently social movement, and oftentimes a lot of times when you're finding something new to do, it's coming from a recommendation from someone you know. And so our approach to social is really about taking that kind of social discovery dynamic and really hypercharging it. And so, all the things that people already like to do, trade tokens, trade NFTs, mint things, discover new dapps and things like that. Our approach to social is going to be to take all those core things that people are already doing and help make it safer and easier by infusing it with social discovery and social elements. So like, hey, this new token is coming up, it's the real, whatever token because 5 of your friends, just bought into it, for example, or this new mint or this, you know, 10 of your friends voted against Trump on this prediction market, kind of letting you know that this even exists, right? Otherwise, you'd really be hearing about that stuff from Telegram or Twitter or something like that. So that's our broad vision for social is really about taking sort of things that people already like to do in crypto and supercharging them as social. I think that's slightly different from the vision of social that a lot of other folks have taken. And obviously this new base or this new Coinbase wallet app's not out yet. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but I think a common thing that people think about when you say crypto social is like taking crypto Twitter and like grafting it onto the blockchain and like providing another place for you to like share a picture of your dog or kids or something like that. And that's like explicitly what we're not doing, is like trying to compete with the same job to be done that Telegram are doing, because they're doing them just and one can even argue, especially after Elon Musk took over Twitter and X, like a lot of arguments around censorship resistance or whatever, like those kind of got a little bit out the window. And in general, yeah, we're not trying to create a new social media app. It's more about how do we take the things that people already like to do in crypto and make it a lot more social.
All right. So last question. This ties together like a number of strands that we've discussed, like mobile and, this competition with exchanges and all of this. But what would be your vision for what Phantom could look like in, I don't know, 5 years or so?
Yeah. No, the vision is to become the biggest consumer finance platform in the world within the next 5 years. That means, a user is able to run their everyday financial life out of the app. And that, basically tools like Revolut or Square Cash or Robinhood as well, like things that people reach to those apps for are ultimately what they're going to be reaching for Phantom for, because A, we're going to make it the best and most usable experience, but B, we're actually harnessing the strength of on-chain open permissionless networks. And we have a very strong belief that that's just where the world is going, is that the world of finance is going to be basically swallowed up by this sort of black hole, which is this growing on-chain ecosystem, and that it's going to be very difficult for individual players to compete with that for a number of different reasons. Traditional finance institutions are landlocked, even though they may appear very digital, internet first in nature. Traditional finance companies are still very much landlocked despite that, and they could, a player like Robinhood could expand the EU and the US, but you're actually not really going to be able to have those users interact with each other very easily by virtue of being built on sort of these old rails. So that's one huge advantage that building on open permissionless networks gives us. And then the second is being able to harness, the momentum of the community, all the innovations from teams around us, building new things, prediction markets, tokenized stocks, et cetera. We believe pretty strongly that most things that people are going to be doing in their traditional financial lives are going to be replicated better and faster on-chain, and then Phantom's going to be the best place to access all that.
All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on Unchained.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it.